Hello, everyone. Welcome to Soulprism Podcast, where we share bite-sized nuggets of wisdom for your body, mind, and soul to serve you, the emerging soulpreneur. My name is Tammy Mack, and I'm so excited to be here today. I have to say, I was on Facebook and I was like girl crushing on Ligia's content. I just absolutely loved her writing style and what she was writing about with astrology and connecting to the soul. And I just knew I had to have her on the podcast. So welcome, Ligia.
Oh, hi, Tammy. Thank you so much for having me here and for all your kind words. You're very kind. Thank you.
This is going to be an amazing conversation today because we have a new moon in Gemini coming up on June 17th at 26 degrees of Gemini in the gate 12 of the channel. Now, we are both human design enthusiasts and specialists, and so we're going to weave in the Gemini themes as well as human design. How does that sound?
That sounds amazing. I'm going to learn from the expert. You are the expert.
So first of all, I'm curious, do you have any Gemini placements in your natal chart or your human design?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't.
Okay.
No.
Well, I have my Jupiter in Gemini in my 6th house of vocation. And so I've really noticed in my entire life, in my vocations, there's always been some sort of a duality, right? And it's really interesting with Gemini because Gemini is about the twins. When we look at Gemini with the tarot card, it is the Lover's card. And we see the duality of the masculine and the feminine, the ego and the wholeness, right? And so I love when you look at the Gemini card, for instance, the Lover's card, you see that Adam is looking at Eve for direction, which is so beautiful because we are moving into a time where we are allowing the feminine to lead through our intuition, through our inner knowing, and not always what is seen, not always the logical, and not always through the masculine. I'm curious if you have any thoughts on that.
Oh, I absolutely love that. I was about to say, when I look into Gemini, the thing that strikes me is the duality, which is a big thing that we have, especially when we are in this soul journey. I feel many times in our lives, we feel this duality between our humanness, which is much more in the ego and the body, and then our soul, which is the connection with our intuition when we channel the soul whispers and we feel like life just flows and we are guided. And when life happens, and I always think like things happen for us, not to us, but if we are not balanced in this duality, then you get this confusion, this kind of confrontation between the two polarities. And sometimes we struggle to think or to know where to go because we are so in this spiritual path and we know sometimes we are challenged and we know, okay, let me try and understand this for another perspective. Let me be more compassionate. Let me be more peaceful and more calm and try to just respond instead of react, which is much more in the masculine. But sometimes it's hard. Sometimes your humanness just gets frustrated with all of, the things that happen, and we get into the archetypes of the child and the victim, where we feel things are unfair and we just want things to work out. And for me, Gemini is what represents is this duality between these two things that we are, that makes us us and makes us one.
I love that. So Gemini is ruled by Mercury and is the planet of communication. It's also the planet of our mental communication, right? Our mental body. And so we have, two sides in the duality. Sometimes we see it depicted like the angel and the devil on your shoulders, or we talk about it the left and the right, or the masculine and the feminine, or the yin and the yang. And Gemini is a very youthful, right? It is the first part of the astrological wheel, right? So it's still in its youth, it's still in its youthful folly, it's still learning, it's still growing. And we grow through communication, right? We grow through, talking and speaking it out and speaking into form. And so I love Gemini when we talk about communication, and when we use human design, for instance, looking at our Mercury for the way that we communicate. In fact, I did a podcast recently about the profile lines of your Mercury for your marketing and your messaging. I bring this up because you were talking about structure and flow, right? And the beautiful part of the growth of Gemini is creating structure and flow, or creating systems, or creating flexibility in your communication, in the way that you share your soul-based business.
It is. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And all about communication. And not only communication with other people, but also how we communicate with ourselves. And sometimes it is exactly that. It starts within. And if our narrative, if the way we communicate with ourselves, if the words we use, I normally say that words are like spells. They can cast, the spell of love, peace, calm, and all of those good things, but also negativity, toxicity, and all of the not so good things. So the way we communicate with ourselves is really important, because whatever's happening here inside of us, it will project to the outside world, and people will feel it. In the matter of marketing, people will connect with you. If you have that not consistent conversation, if you have that duality inside of you that you're trying to portray through your communication, that something is in a way, but inside of you, you're really not embodying those words you're trying to communicate, people will feel it.
Absolutely. Your vibe attracts your tribe, right? And so we create out of our baseline frequency, right? We create out of our baseline frequency. So sometimes we have great days, sometimes we have shit days, but it's through our baseline frequency of who we truly are. That is what radiates. So walking your walk, talking your talk. I always bring up self-worth as well, right? Because you can only attract as much as that you feel worthy of. Now, I want to bring in gate 12, because gate 12 is going to be, celebrated during this new moon. And gate 12 is the gate of the channel. It has a potential of being the channel of transformation. And yet there is a shyness in that channeling. There is a, needing to be recognized, to be seen, to be heard, to share in the right circumstances with the right people, the right places, and the right circumstances. And we have a protective mechanism over our larynx that protects us. And so a lot of times we were told to be quiet, to not be seen, to not be heard, to shut that down. And for many of us, we shut down our channel of transformation. We shut down our ability to be able to channel information and energy and wisdom. And so really coming into the wisdom of when it is to share, when it is aligned, when it is truly of your essence, and when it's coming from ego.
Yeah, I love that. And I completely resonate with what you're saying. That is a thing that I see with people in my community as well. And especially with the clients that I have that are more into mediumship, being psychics, being a channel, being a healer. They absolutely know how to, they have the gifts, they have the abilities, they have everything, but then it's communicating that. There is that fear that maybe I shouldn't say these things. People will not get it. And you want to just share your words to heal other people, to reach more people, to on the right ways, like you say, like not in a stage kind of way, meaning, showing off, but in the right channels, for the right communities and things like that. But there is a lot of remainings of the witch wound still in us, where we felt that it was completely wrong to show our gifts. And you couldn't even say things, certain words show that you were a healer, you had some sort of gifts, because that would mean your life will be in danger. So we still carry that in our DNAs. And maybe that's the reason why we shut that gate down.
I love that you bring that up. I was literally mowing my lawn today thinking about the witch wound.
Really?
I honestly, and so I just, you can't make this up. Like, I'm so grateful that you brought this up, because I was thinking about the witch wound. And that shyness, or that fear of judgment, or that fear of persecution when we speak our truth, or when we come out of our woo closet, or when we share our healing gifts. And I went through a whole healing of this literally about 6 months ago now, where I wasn't the witch in the witch wound, but I was actually the persecutor. I was the one throwing the stones. Even though I had the magical powers, I was terrified I was going to get found out. So I was the loudest voice in the room as a persecutor, because I didn't want to be found out. And so there's, the witch wound isn't just the witch or those that fear the persecution, but it's also those that have shame around perhaps, persecuting others or pointing fingers at one time, and healing that wound as well.
Yeah. And I guess, like, as we navigate this opportunity that it is our lifetime now, and we have that awareness, perhaps that curiosity, and you feel that shame and guilt activating, then you can do what you can to heal that part of the karma. Some people are not awakened in that way, so they carry on with the guilt and the shame, and that's what we sometimes see still happening with slavery and war and all of these things that are still happening. And even sometimes in our communities, our families, where we have someone that is the person persecuting the family. I mean, like, yeah. So it's still very, very alive, to be honest, this wound, for all of us.
It is, like, even in my own family, they are evangelical Christians. And I have been an ordained minister for the Universal Life Church for 8 years now. And so the Universal Life Church is all children under one universe, right? So we welcome all faiths, all religions, all thought beliefs. And so astrology and human design is a part of the Universal Life Church. And unfortunately, my parents can't celebrate me for that. They can't celebrate, my love, my faith, because they are so structured and rigid in theirs, right? And so there's the duality. Even though we celebrate and we love the same God, we both love Jesus. If it's not according to certain rules or a certain religion, then it's not real, right? Then it's the devil. And so once again, when you can take that step back and see the wholeness of it, we're both right, we're both wrong, and it's not our place to judge that. And so really taking that step back and having good boundaries, and yet being able to love through those boundaries.
No, it's amazing. Like, you are already breaking that karma, because having the awareness that you were persecuted in a past life, and now you are leading or one of the leaders of the church for 8 years. You're just shifting that wound, that karma there. So at the soul level, in the human level, there is obviously hurt, and maybe you feel of rejection, or that feel of, maybe I'm disappointing my parents in that way. But at a soul level, you are progressing. So that's beautiful, and kudos to you for doing that.
For me, I do have a defined will center in my human design, and so the idea of being ordained, the idea is sovereignty, where everybody has a right, has the ability to become ordained, to be chosen, to have their own sovereignty. And so that was one of the, I got ordained way before I knew human design, but I was always living my life as a projector, even when I didn't know it.
Isn't that amazing? You were designed to be that way.
In some ways. I'm also Capricorn rising, and so it's very, very ego conditioned as well.
Yeah.
And
very loyal, very structured, disciplined, fun, very fun as well.
Gemini new moon June 17th, and I'm curious, do you do any rituals? Do you celebrate new moons? What do you do for the new moon?
Yeah, normally I do new moon and full moon rituals. With a new moon, well, with any new moons and any ritual that I do, to be honest, soul writing is on the basis of it. So I really, with the theme of the new moon, meaning new beginnings, transformation, and welcoming new opportunities, and even challenges, embracing the challenge that show up. I like to use soul inquiries that question my being of, okay, what am I open to? What are the opportunities that I'm available for? What do I have capacity to take on now? What do I want to do? What I desire to do or to be? Or, I set intentions, not so much goals and tasks. I'm very structured in that way. As a generator, I have to I have to have some sort of structure. But when it comes to I learned to relax more, especially since my dad passed away 20 months ago. And you get to a point that you realize that making plans long term, it might not happen, that your life is actually short. When you are confronted with this reality, I learned to be more in the being and slow down more and set intentions rather than goals and things like 5-year, 10-year goals and stuff like that to be honest, never happened because we change and our priorities change, and again our vision, our perspective of things change as well. Like I happened to me when my dad passed. So yeah, I set my intentions. I normally lit a white candle because it's more peaceful. It's more like, yeah, it's more inviting. It's more like new beginnings. White is like so many cultures. We see New Year's Eve and they're wearing white because it's that blank slate. Like, let's start over. And that do my oracle reading, based on the soul inquiries that I just journaled on, and do a meditation as well. So normally that's what I do with new moons. What about you?
Oh, no, that's beautiful. During the new moon, I tend to set a new intention for the lunar cycle. Although I am a projector, I am pretty much a reflector with 7 centers open. And so even though I do use my spleen to make decisions, I do follow the energetic flow of the lunar cycle. I'm very, very connected to the moon. So I do set an intention. I am a goal-oriented woman, and so I tend to set a 30-day goal for something to, whatever it is. Sometimes it's financial, sometimes it's health related, sometimes it's just staying consistent in a habit. That's when I created the Initiatrix, Initiation into Abundance. It's my 21-day challenge where we create our day through an intention. And so we love to set it during the new moon. So we're aligned with the new moon. And we move through the 21 days through guidance, through the journaling prompts, and through the exercises that I provide. But this is really allowing you to set your day, to create your day, because we're all creatrixes of our matrix. We all are the creator, right? And so we create our day from our frequency, from our own energy. We stay aligned in our energy, what it is that we want to experience through the day. We connect to our feelings and what it is that we want. We do journaling so that we can come back to our own frequency, our own energy throughout the day, and remember that this is what my intention is. This is what I'm open to. This is what I want to experience, and staying in my alignment, in my energy, so that I can respond properly according to my human design. So I do love new moons, and I also love full moons as well, because this is where we take stock of what worked, what didn't, what can we release to let go so that we can bring in for the new.
Yes, absolutely.
This was such a beautiful conversation. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I hope that we have more in the future. There's such resonance, there's such alignment between the two of us. Thank you so much for being on the Soulprism Podcast, and I will see you again next week.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.